It's 1 p.m. PST, so you know what that means. It is 8-Bits time with me, your favorite coronavirus vegan who avoids meat, M-E-E-T. And I've got my co-host over here, Brandon Minnick. Hi, Brandon.
Hi, everybody. Great to see you again. As always, Chloe. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. What a crazy week it has been. I've started my week off with the Microsoft Student Ambassador Hackathon that's happening. We're doing a social good idea hackathon. So my heart is very full with all these positive things that are being built and eventually sent out into the world. I truly feel like Whitney Houston, I believe the children are our future right now. These students make me very proud to be mentoring the MSAs. Have you worked with the MSAs before, Brandon?
I did. I snuck into the events this week. I was on a panel. There was 4 of us, and we all gave our tips and tricks for hosting workshops.
That's right.
And so got to talk about how we can make sure workshops are inclusive, and not just inclusive for different levels of experience, because as we know, everybody can join a workshop, whether they have never written a line of code in their life to being a total expert, or there's also the inclusivity of making sure folks with different backgrounds, different disabilities that can all successfully attend the workshop as well. So it was really cool. And yeah, the questions we got from the students were great, and it's so true. They really do make you proud, make you excited for the future. Yeah.
I had a really fun time yesterday. I got to moderate and sit in on a talk by Margaret Price, who works here at Microsoft, who talked all about inclusive design. And it really opened my eyes, so much so that later in the day, yesterday, my dad just bought a Soda Stream. And if you're not familiar, Soda Streams are those devices that you can make sparkling water at home, because he's been drinking a little too much LaCroix, so he wants to save some money at home. And I was helping my dad put together this Soda Stream, and we wanted to do a video call, but the video calling app that we were using required one of those Android features where there's a button in the center, but there's no directions, and you either have to swipe left or right to answer it. And it was a really interesting moment after hearing that inclusive design talk earlier in the day, because I thought to myself, there's no directions, there's no onboarding to tell my dad, who is 76, not great at technology, how to answer this. So it made me start thinking about what are some ways to make sure that I'm being inclusive with the apps and the products that I designed, to make sure, obviously something that Margaret talked about was it's hard to account for everyone, to design for everyone, and accessibility and inclusivity are 2 very different things. But I've inclusivity on the mind this week, Brandon.
Oh yeah. And good. It's important. And I think that's a topic that should be at the forefront of all of our minds, because too often it's more of an afterthought.
Yeah.
And the problem with accessibility, inclusivity being an afterthought is that it's so much harder to, we'll say, fix or implement after you've completed the project that you're working on. Whereas if you had started down that road from the beginning, then it really doesn't take much more effort. It's just kind of like, oh, let's keep this in mind. And oh yeah, this color palette, it looks like that would be tough for people who are colorblind. And then you can quickly check it out. And then you haven't designed your whole app or your whole website with a bad color palette and have to redo it later. And so, kudos to you for keeping it top of mind. And also everybody out there, let's make sure we're always being inclusive, always being sure we can have accessible apps, accessible websites for everything we make.
It's important to have those people in the room for the decision making too. And one of the examples that I think of really often is, we're all software engineers, and we typically, if we're not freelancing or doing a couple different side jobs, we have one job. And a lot of times applications will be built where there's one work location, one home location. But when we're thinking of lower income demographics of other industries, like I come from theater where people have multiple jobs at once, sometimes it's worth having a voice in the room saying, hey, we're designing this for this kind of, demographic or this kind of person. maybe there should be multiple work locations, or maybe this is an app for children and maybe they come from a divorced household. Should we have 2 home locations? So it was really interesting listening to Margaret talk about, like, if you're not getting the full perspective of who your users are and how you're using it, you're not really getting the full picture of how your app can be impactful. So now I'm almost designing backwards. I'm like, all right, so am I being inclusive with color blindness? Am I being inclusive for people who aren't great at technology? And of course, it can become overwhelming, but super important to think about when we're designing these apps. And I wish I could have caught your workshop talk, Brandon.
It was first thing Tuesday morning, which was our Monday, since Monday was a holiday here in the US. But yeah, I always say if a UI isn't intuitive, for example, if the user can't figure it out just by looking at it, it's broken. Yeah. And people hate that I say that, but it's true, because if I need to explain to you how to use my app or how to use my website, and you need to go through a tutorial first, then your UX is broken, and I should be able to intuitively figure it out. And yeah, like you said, with having to swipe to do something, but it doesn't give you, like, because you can put arrows on the screen or say like swipe here, or kind of have that first run experience that maybe fades away after the user uses it a couple successful times. But yeah, we need to make sure we keep an eye on that.
Yeah, inclusivity for all the people. Well, any other news you want to talk about, Brandon, before we bring in our super special guest today? We've got a good one today.
Yeah, no, let's bring him in, because he's one of my favorite people. So I can't wait to continue.
Do you want to do the honors? You do the honors.
Well, so our guest this week is Jeremy Sinclair. He and I, we go back. We are, we'll say, old-time Xamarin developers from back in the day, and that's how I got to know Jeremy. And he does just amazing work. So let's bring him in and let him tell us all about it. Welcome to the show, Jeremy.
Yay! Hey, thank you all for having me.
And we already have a fan in the comments. We have Code with Sean says, very excited. My friend Jeremy is on. We are too, Sean. We're so excited. Jeremy, awesome. I haven't seen you since Orlando Live
360. Yeah. It was such great times back when we could travel.
You know, back in the good old days.
We were at a luau back when we could meet in person. What have you been up to these days, Jeremy? Working from home, I assume?
Yeah, working from home, keeping myself busy, just cruising Twitter, doing what I do, tweeting every awesome thing that I find out on the internet, and just doing all kinds of random stuff just to keep me occupied and everyone excited.
If you're not following Jeremy on Twitter, you should. Handle is below. I always get a smile to my face on all the wonderful, funny things you post on Instagram too, Jeremy. So it's a good follow, everyone.
I keep it interesting.
So Jeremy, for folks who are new to the Sinclairinator brand, tell us a little bit about what you do, who you are. Tell the lovely folks at home who we're chatting with today, who we're going to ask these tough 8 questions to.
Yeah, so my name is Jeremy Sinclair. I am an enterprise.NET developer. I mostly do backend.NET, ASP.NET Core development, SharePoint development. But when I'm outside of work, I just try to do a lot of native development to keep my mind going. And I do a lot of PowerShell also.
And I'm just remembering now, Jeremy, we totally forgot the lead in here was you and I met at Build 2 years ago, and we were Dev MCs. There are a lot of fun videos of that online that people can check out, of Jeremy interviewing some fun people and myself doing. I think we have a coffee chat that we did together. But we got to explore the whole Build playground. I call it a playground because it really kind of felt like a theme park. Were you able to attend any of the online Build this year?
Oh, absolutely. That was actually very exciting, because I felt like since this year was also the first year that I became a Windows Insider MVP.
Ooh,
yay!
Congrats!
Thank you. There's a lot of stuff that I was excited to hear about at Build, and I really thought it was interesting to see it happen online because I felt like I was back in my zone where I normally go through these courses, the ones that really catch my eye, and tweet out all the amazing like, bits and pieces of it for everyone else to find out.
And there was this really cool visual during Build that I saw. I don't remember who tweeted it, but it was like a info or kind of a visual graphic of all the people who tweeted at Build and all the people connected. And Jeremy had, I'm not kidding y'all, like it was this dot with like a million lines coming off of it. He was a major source of Twitter info for Build. And so how did you become a Windows insider? Do you just wake up one day and you become one, or is that like a goal that you like climb a mountain for and achieve, after 20 years of study?
Well, once upon a time, there was this device called the Windows Phone. Yep, it started there. I mean, that's what got me into mobile development. Actually, C# is the reason.
Wow.
Yeah, and eventually, when they had the Windows Phone 8 previews and the Windows 10 mobile insider builds, that's when I got in on it and was there at the beginning of Windows 10. So I love my preview builds and the feedback I'm able to give and help out the rest of the teams. I love bleeding edge everything, so I'm used to it. I'm ready. Ready.
So you stoked for this new device that's coming out?
Oh, you mean that Surface Duo that I have coming for me tomorrow?
Tomorrow? What?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Emergency stream show tomorrow.
Yeah.
For Jeremy to show us the Surface Duo.
We're very jealous.
I'm excited.
I keep telling everyone I'm going to make a little book skin for mine and walk around like I'm reading a book everywhere.
I feel like that would work for you.
Yeah. Well, that's super exciting. You must be like checking the door every 5 minutes. Just like, is it here? Is it here?
Oh, you should have seen my face when I saw what was it, last week or a few weeks ago that others received their units. I'm checking FedEx and do I have it coming for me yet?
Just going to the tracking website, hitting refresh.
Y'all,
why isn't this thing here yet?
I can't believe I totally skipped over some really big, important Microsoft news that came out yesterday, a little bit unexpectedly, but the new Xbox looks freaking cool.
That's right.
Yeah. I like those prices. Those prices are good. That's because I know a lot of people were really worried about, the Series X costing like $600-700, but that $499, that's doable. And the S. That I might actually be good at that. I don't know, because I'm still rolling with my original Xbox One, like Xbox One 1 terabyte. Like I'm keeping it old school until that thing just decides to not work. But it's been doing well.
You know what I like even more than the price are the memes that have come out, because it has this like circle. So one was like John Cusack holding the radio up like and say anything, and he's holding up the Xbox. And my favorite one is the SpongeBob meme where it's SpongeBob and Patrick with their mouths open, and then they put some eyes on the Xbox.
The meme makers are out in full force on this.
If y'all are following the Xbox account on Twitter, you're sleeping on that account, because it is a really, really funny, wonderful account that has been tweeting out all these hilarious memes. And I think that they handled yesterday really well. If you haven't gone down, looked at their tweets from yesterday, highly recommend checking it out.
Yeah, I like that they have a sense of humor. Because you gotta have that during these days.
Yeah,
right. That's like you just have to roll with it, because if you get defensive and you're like, no, don't put eyeballs on our product, we're like, what? Why are you so upset about this? But just roll with it. Have fun.
Because we always talk about theme parks on this show every single time without fail. That common theme. They're currently building a Velociraptor roller coaster at Universal Orlando, and they haven't really posted anything public about it. So someone posted this photo of like a crane lifting up like a velociraptor, and it's quite clear that that's the coaster they're building. And I think I saw the Universal account tweet like the side eye emoji, just like, look over there, like there's nothing to see here.
What roller coaster?
We don't know what you're talking about. Well, shall we get into the questions, y'all? I'm so excited.
Yeah.
It's 8-bit time. I think it's about that time. And for
Sure
those of
is.
you who are not, who are maybe new or have not joined us before, on this show, 8-Bits, we have the same format each time with our guests, which is that we have the same 7 questions that we ask each time. And then we have an 8th bonus question that is based off of our guest. Think Inside the Actor Studio, but a little more techie, tech nostalgia, nerdy kind of thing. So without further ado, Jeremy, we will give you the first question, which is, what is your earliest memory of tech?
So my earliest memory of tech is seeing my dad's computer. It was this, I think it was a 286 at the time, and those little input switcher things underneath of the monitor where you press the little lever to turn the entire machine on. I just remember playing in DOS and Duke Nukem, all those fun old school games.
Yeah, I still vividly remember a lot of the sounds of those devices. Like I even remember like my dad's printer sound very clearly. Even just like tearing off the sides of the of the paper.
That's right, because everything was like
Endless
beeps
paper.
and blops. Like the game noises were all like bleep, bleep, bloop. and it totally worked.
I even remember having to type in like mem maker to get up to that 640K of conventional memory. All of those days when you just wanted to play the game and you had to enter in all these commands just for it to work. I think it's because of that I'm more of a command line person.
I remember our first computer upgrade, because we had older computers, and then this was in the 90s when like Gateway was the big computer dealer.
Mm-hmm.
And we bought like top of the line Gateway PC, and it had an 8 gigabyte hard drive. And I remember thinking, there's no way we'll ever fill this 8 gigabyte hard drive. And now I'm like, I need at least a terabyte for work.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like, did you guys ever play Putt-Putt or any of those early childhood education games, or like Pajama Sam? Because my
I played
parents
Oregon
had
Trail.
Oregon Trail's kind of in that genre, but for me, like I went from the old black and white, Mac that my dad got from the college that he did word processing on, to going to a friend's house who had a PC, and I had never seen like a color game before, like, and seeing this like purple car on the screen that could talk to me versus just like a quick sound bite or just like a bleep bloop was just like, I have to come to your house every day. I am so sorry. I need to play this game. I need to understand. So I love that these games like bring folks like us into this computing world. So which one did you say was your fave, Jeremy?
My fave? Oh, that's tough because I don't know. I believe I will go with Duke Nukem.
Duke Nukem. Okay.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Because I'll put Commander Keen in second place because that's up there too.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I'm bringing it back. You didn't think
waves
about
of nostalgia coming back.
Major Striker, all those fun, like Apogee. I can't remember how to even pronounce it.
Oh wow!
So fun.
I forgot about all this stuff.
Oh yeah.
I'd watch a live stream of y'all playing those, just like going back, playing all these old games. Someone in the chat saying Wolfenstein.
Oh yeah, Wolfenstein. So this is a funny story. So my mother and I used to play Wolfenstein, and she used to get as frustrated with the game as I did. And it was so hilarious to see her get so competitive. Just wanted to gun down these dudes that I couldn't beat. So it was like the only game her and I played together.
Sounds like we need to have your mom live stream this game.
No, probably not a good idea.
Yeah, that's like my dad and Mario Tennis. Which is a great segue into our next question, which is, what is the last piece of technology or hardware that you bought?
You already know that Surface Duo, but
Oh,
I'll go before that. Before that was my Surface Pro X
okay.
that I'm
Nice.
currently using.
Ooh, and look at how
Yeah.
clear that camera is.
Oh yeah, that camera's phenomenal.
And look at those awesome headphones that you have. What brand are they, Jeremy?
They happen to be Surface headphones.
Oh my god! Sponsored by
What?
Surface.
I'm all surfaced out. It's funny because this device is the first Surface device I've ever bought.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And for the added reason of, hey, Microsoft's finally making a Windows on ARM PC, so I had to hop in on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as a fellow C# Visual Studio dev, how's it holding up for coding? I assume you're using with your day to day.
Oh yeah. So I will say that if you're using if you want to use Visual Studio, just don't expect to have fun compiling UWP applications. Just don't.
Oh no.
But other than that, I mean, we have .NET 5 previews that are native Windows ARM 64 support, so I can easily, compile those and run this, and it runs really, really awesome.
Nice.
VS Code. There's a lot of stuff that I use this for, just as my primary device. If it runs on it, I'm going to try to run it. Oh, WSL2. That's something else. I had to do a shameless plug on that because seeing WSL2 run so flawlessly for me, I've recompiled the kernel, Linux kernel in WSL2 on my Surface Pro X.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Whoa.
Yeah, the performance is phenomenal.
Today I learned.
Oh yeah.
We had someone in the chat say back on our last question, back in my day, we had Pong and we liked it. We played it uphill both ways. Had to share that one.
Super old school on me.
I'm actually a really big fan of those Surface headphones, and I promise this isn't a commercial, but I wear them around my house, and sometimes I put the noise cancellation all the way up, and my boyfriend will tap me on the shoulder, and I will legitimately be scared. But it's wonderful back when I was on airplanes, and I had to drown out crying baby sounds in an airport, or even sometimes just walking down the street. But it does get kind of creepy. You feel like you can't even hear the leaves crunching under your feet when you're walking.
Yeah, that's one of the big things I like about the Surface headphones, that the noise cancellation is definitely on point.
Yeah,
My,
and amplification.
Oh yes, because if you want just that ambient noise to drown out things, you can enhance it. Yeah, these headphones are really awesome, and
Yeah,
just the amount of power to them, I can really wear them the entire day. So can't get any better than that.
Because I get a lot of questions in the Bay Area back when I was out a lot more, like, oh, where'd you get those headphones? They look cool. But whenever I'm in Seattle, everyone has them on. And I'm like, oh, that must be a Microsoft employee there. All right. Well, our next question here, Jeremy, is what technology do you love?
I love .NET, C#, PowerShell,
okay.
all of it. Yeah, .NET, everything. The reason I like it is because I feel like I can go anywhere with it. I learned PowerShell first before I learned C#. So being able to translate a lot of my ideas back and forth, and if I create some library and I want to share it for different platforms, and my code reuse is up because I don't have to recreate everything over and over and over again. So that's my favorite.
I couldn't agree more, Jeremy.
We got the two biggest fans here in the room.
Get to the choir here with Brandon.
So I have to ask, how did the two of you both get pulled into the siren song of .NET? Because I have yet to really play that much with So pitch me. It's
Oh,
Shark Tank.
okay.
Pitch me on .NET. I'm a shark.
I'll let you go first.
So my first introduction to .NET was my first job out of college. So I went to University of Florida, and they exclusively teach Java. And when I graduated, my first job was using C#. And it was back then, it was a pretty easy transition because, I mean, let's be honest, like C# was basically Java when it first came out. It was, I think it was like nicknamed Microsoft's Java, right? I mean, the good news is since then, the C# team does an amazing job. We got C# 9 coming out, all these amazing new features that Java's now kind of catching up to us. But so that was just total luck. And then as I grew in my career and eventually discovered Xamarin, well, that was when like that mobile wave was happening. So I really wanted to get into mobile. I was a developer. I knew how to code, and specifically I knew C#, but to make an iOS and Android app, you had to know, well, back then it was Objective-C and Java. And I was like, well, I know Java. And I looked at Objective-C and I was like, oh, I don't know if I really want to learn this language. I guess I'll try it. Like I made a calculator app, like, you know, a lot of us do for our first apps. But yeah, and then I was poking around. I found this company with a funny name called Xamarin. And I was like, what do they do? And it was like native iOS and Android apps in C#. I was like, oh, yeah, that's exactly what I want. And started playing around with it. I was like, this is a pretty cool tool. Ended up working there. And what I love the most about .NET and C# now is how the ecosystem's grown. So obviously Microsoft acquired Xamarin. So we have a first class mobile experience. We already had first class web experiences and desktop experiences. And now we have ML.NET and IoT. So there's really nothing you can't do as a C# .NET developer these days. And I struggle to find an excuse to leave it. You know, when somebody's like, let's work on this ML project. And they're like, we should do it in Python. I'm like, well, actually, you know, there's ML.NET and let me give it a shot over here. And everything just keeps working. They keep adding new features to it. So not only do I love the language, love all the features, I love strongly typed languages in particular with a little bit of functional programming sprinkled in. Beautiful. But now it's like, I can do everything I need. And kind of like Jeremy mentioned earlier, you can share code across all these apps. So my backend can share code with my mobile app, can share code with my website. If I wanted to run an IoT board, part of that project too, like all that is all just C#. And so, so you got me all excited. How did you get into it, Jeremy?
It does all the things.
Well, it's actually kind of a very similar story. So after, I was still in college at the time, started as an intern at the current place I'm at, and I was a systems engineer. And, you know, we had a lot of systems. I like to automate things and happened across PowerShell just randomly. So I installed it and saw everything that I could do with it, learned it, built some crazy script to handle like different Exchange servers and SQL servers and aggregate the data. And that was my way in. And the more I loved PowerShell and also had some knowledge of PHP on the side. It was around that time when Windows Phone 7 was starting to come out. And I wanted to develop. Like I'm doing this scripting over here. I'm automating this. I want to get a phone and I want to develop for it. And that's how I really got into more of .NET. Then I happened to transfer over to the position I'm at now, doing it's a .NET web developer essentially, and MonoTouch and MonoDroid before it was Xamarin. Yeah,
way back in the day.
Because like you said, I wanted to develop for all the devices, but there was no way that I was going to pick up Java, and especially Objective C. That one blew my mind. Like, I want to use .NET for this.
Very cool. Well, as the shark, I'll give you a thumbs up. I will
We got the
try
funding.
.NET.
Good. There we go.
This Python JavaScript girl will dip her toe into .NET. You guys convinced me. So if there was like a beginner project, well, maybe Brandon, you have a good answer for this because you've been working with PJ on some .NET stuff.
That's right.
What's a good kind of intro beginner project? Maybe some of our students or MSAs are watching that they could get started with.
Yeah, and so just to fill anybody in who missed our episode, we had a guest, PJ Metz. He'll be coming back in a couple of weeks. Can't wait to see him again.
Yeah.
But yeah, he and I have been working on a side project where he's building a website in ASP.NET Core. And the way this kind of came about was I recommended to PJ, or asked PJ rather, it's like, what do you wish existed that we can build? Because the beauty with software is, we can build anything. Well, almost anything. It still has to obey the laws of physics and whatnot. But yeah, I found when I was learning specifically Xamarin, I was working on an app that's for a website called mondaypunday.com. It's now available in the iOS and Android app stores as Punday. And it was because I wanted to make a mobile app for this website. And that passion for this project is what pushed me to learn more and to use the framework and write more code and to get things working. And so, yeah, my recommendation is think of something you wish existed. I mean, keep it simple. Don't try to create the next Facebook or next billion-dollar company. Just like, what's something in your life that's mildly inconvenient that could be improved with maybe a website, maybe it's a mobile app, and then start working towards that. We have great resources on Microsoft Learn. We have a whole suite of C# tutorials that I helped record with colleagues, Scott Hanselman and Matt Sokup on, they're literally called C# 101. So if you type in C#, like the hashtag 101, you'll see a bunch of YouTube videos where you can start learning the basics of the language C#. You can learn the basics of creating websites in ASP.NET Core. You can learn the basics of creating mobile apps with Xamarin and even more. There's also Windows and IoT stuff in there. So yeah, check it out. But first, have that project in mind because it gets kind of stale just reading tutorials and creating that calculator app. Nobody's excited to create a calculator app, but if maybe you want to create something to make your life better, you're going to want to keep working on that. And yeah, for PJ, it was this website.
Well, I'll give a little teaser for PJ's episode in a couple of weeks. I may or may not be working on a little Twitter bot with PJ that may or may not have to do with a country music singer. I've said too much.
Join us in 2 weeks.
Join us in 2 weeks. But Jeremy, question for you. What technology do you hate?
JavaScript.
Shots fired, Jeremy.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm gonna get reamed for this one, but I'll say I have a dislike for it, probably because it's evolved so much and I haven't kept up with it.
Okay.
And so it's really an issue of me staying up on it and just how much the language has changed. Like there's a lot of random JavaScript stuff I have to kind of figure out and make work. And when I actually have to do it, I end up making it 1,000 times harder than it actually is. Like NPM package that does it for me that I find out after the fact. But I will say that being able to use Blazor just that just gives me a sigh of relief.
What you're saying is JavaScript is like what's the word I'm looking for? Going through like a makeover too often for you. It's like reinventing itself too often.
Oh, and it's I guess you have you have JavaScript, and you have, which I actually like TypeScript. I haven't played with it in depth, but it feels like TypeScript is the my ideal language to use, since it compiles down to JavaScript, but I don't explicitly have to use the full JavaScript. I have the type safety. That's actually my ideal. But when it comes to debugging JavaScript and browsers and figuring out why things aren't working, and you end up going down a rabbit hole, ultimately needing to hack something together or take something completely out for it to work, that's what makes me want to pull my hair out.
We've got a Blazor hype team in the chat right now. Everyone's like, Blazor, Blazor.
Yeah. Well, I say Blazor because I was doing something with one of my projects, and I needed like a little, I can't even think of the word of it, like a little wizard. And there was a component that was using with a jQuery component. And for me to tie it into what I was doing with my MVC, it was just, I had to put something on every single page, and it felt like I was making it more clunky for no reason.
Sure.
And then comes Blazor. And then I realized that I can rip all of that code out and do it all with C#. That sold me completely. But that's just my that's just my own personal preference, because if I can do it in .NET, I want it done in .NET. I don't really like to go through 4 or 5 different things. Like I know CSS is something that is needed. That's out of my wheelhouse. That's a whole other journey that continuously evolves on its own also. But I'll say I give big ups to the JavaScript community, because keeping up with that, y'all were strong, because it keeps evolving.
Yeah. So my next question, which is not on the list, is Brandon, Jeremy, after Shelter in Place is done, are y'all going to go get some .NET tattoos together, maybe? Some like .NET friendship tattoos? So, like you love this language.
We'll see about that.
Yeah, okay. Consider it. Maybe at a conference or something, y'all can
show it off. Yeah.
So our next question here is, what other profession would you want to attempt?
Another profession I would love to attempt, especially if I wasn't doing full-time, .NET development, I would go down the music production realm. Because back in high school, me and Fruity Loops, before it was FL Studio, we made some fire. It was I wish I could go back to those days, because I could just sit and think of beats all day and just get out my keyboard and mouse and create music without knowing how to play any musical instrument.
Yeah. Have you considered, there's a lot of conferences and events that I've attended where they'll have like a DJ who's live coding and kind of combining music with code. Have you considered combining your passions at all, or maybe making like a music.net thing?
That'd be cool.
I at some point thought about it, but then that means I'd have to get a lot of the prerequisites down in order in terms of generating audio, and all of that good stuff before I could even go down that path. And besides, other software companies have obviously way more experience, have made some fantastic products that I can just use.
Yeah, I'm waiting for someone to make some like early Windows 95, 98 girl talk like albums where we hear like, "You've got mail" from like AOL, and we just sample from that vaporware.
Please someone do this. So someone has to do this.
With all the extra time I have, I'll get on that immediately.
Anybody at home's watching, if you pull this together, we will have you on the show.
We will
Let
have
us
you
know.
on the show automatically. I did get tagged, I think it was New Year's of last year, someone named DJ Clippy. Anytime there's a
DJ
Clippy, I
Clippy.
get tagged in it. I want to say it was in Amsterdam. There was someone on stage with a big Windows green background, like DJing with a Clippy on stage. And I was like, how did
Yes.
someone make music for me?
Like, where have you been all my life? DJ Clippy. That is awesome.
The hero we didn't know we needed.
Brandon, we know you're a music
Save
fan.
us from 2020.
You were there at the first performance, but have you dabbled at all with music and tech stuff yet, Brandon?
I haven't. I mean, yeah, I grew up, I was a percussionist, so I did concert percussion. I marched on drumline in high school. I had a drum set until I had to move to San Francisco when I got a job with Xamarin, because you can't really have a drum set in a studio apartment. Well, I guess my neighbor above me did, but I wouldn't, because that's rude to your neighbors. So, but no, I haven't done anything with mixing in technology, because that could be kind of cool. Like, you could probably build your own pedals. You could build your own probably amplifiers and mixers. Because, well, I should say my background, I did computer hardware engineering when I was in college, which is all basically designing processors. And so you have to learn all about those. Yeah, right. Like Fourier transforms and all sorts of Euler equations and methods. But no, I haven't, and I don't have a good excuse.
I feel like are the two of you familiar? Again, we're as is per usual. We have to mention a musical on the show. Have either of you seen Rent before or heard the musical from the musical Rent?
Yeah.
So I feel like my first intro to that kind of like digital interactive music stuff was Maureen in Rent when she sings Over the Moon, because this was like the 80s, 90s, I want to say. So she had a microphone with these pedals where she would be like, she'd sing these lyrics like over the moon, and then she'd like push the pedal and be like moon, moon, moon. And I was like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah,
so
right.
maybe
Back on itself.
Like at home, make your own Over the Moon track app. I'll have to hit up Broadway for that one.
Love it.
So
that's
many.
A pretty cool idea.
Well, I think I get very inspired from artists like Girl Talk, artists that like remix. There's also, I can't think of their name, but that YouTube channel that remixes all the sounds and songs and audio quotes, like the Double Rainbow song. Like,
oh, yeah.
Yes.
Manipulate like Obama to sing, or like
was it auto-tune
the news?
Yes.
Yep, auto-tune the news.
I feel like that's my next level of like technical prowess is like, all right, I did the musical theater thing, I did the coding thing. Now I need to figure how to auto tune, like
bring them all together.
Do it. Oh man. Well,
Genius.
We are on to our next question here. Let's see. We just did what profession would you like to attempt? What profession would you not like to attempt, Jeremy?
I would not want to attempt being a chef.
A chef.
That is one thing. I am not amazing at cooking, but I can cook a mean salmon fillet.
A mean salmon. And how did you learn how to cook salmon out of all of these foods? Why salmon?
Because I was watching an anime one day.
There we go. Okay.
It was called Food Wars, and the food on there was just so phenomenal. And they're going through step by step how they were making it. And I just got hungry, so I'm like, we're going to try this. And so I made some salmon.
Is this an anime where they actually go through the recipe so you're able to follow along in the anime?
Sort of. Like they'll come up with these dishes and they'll go step by step. Well, sort of step by step on how they the ingredients in them. But I just saw this one episode they were doing something brilliant with salmon, and I was just really hungry, so I just made a simple salmon fillet, and I'm like, okay, we'll roll with this.
What you're saying is we need to find you more anime that focuses on delicious food. I mean, Have you seen Spirited Away? Because there's a lot of yummy food in Spirited Away that No Face eats.
I've seen way too much anime.
I just tried to watch Spirit Away the other night, but for whatever reason, the captions weren't working. And so I didn't get too far. I mean, I did take Japanese in high school, but
so did I.
I am not fluent by any means. Like, oh, no way. Yeah, I can read. I remember the alphabet. I love katakana because it's just basically anglicized words brought into Japanese, and I can sound them out. But
kanji.
Yeah, I didn't make it too far to Spirited Away. Soon though, I'll catch up.
I identify specifically during Shelter in Place with the No Face character eating, just like inhaling all the food, because that's me at home. Oh, I'm back at the fridge, just eating. Eating a box full of chicken nuggets.
No shame in that.
So many chicken nuggets during the pandemic. Yeah, same.
Relatable content. So, other than salmon, which we know exists, what technology do you wish existed from film or television?
So, what I really wish existed would be the VR, so that immersible VR, where you put on the device and you're in this entirely different virtual environment, fully immersed in it. So you can go to stores, interact with other people, and just live out your entire imagination. Like that would be one of the most coolest things ever to experience.
So almost like a simulation where like we're talking Westworld, we're talking like Ready Player One kind of scenario, like you can't tell the difference at all.
Mm-hmm. Like even, and I'm going to bring up Black Mirror because there was one of those episodes, like one of the more, one of the better episodes where you just weren't scared. But I think that would be so cool just to see how far the use of that tech could improve the lives of others if it existed to that extent.
Someone in our chat just mentioned Upload on Amazon, and I agree. Very similar to Upload.
I've been meaning to watch that.
Oh yes, very interesting commentary on the afterlife and simulation. I think are you referencing, Jeremy, the San Junipero episode in particular? Because I think you may be the second person to mention that. I think we had someone recently, the one with the two women who meet in the simulation.
Yes, that one. Yeah, that one was awesome.
Just visually really beautiful, and also just such a beautiful story. We actually have art in our home of it because I've mentioned on the show before. I saw my boyfriend watch it on mute on an airplane, and I was kind of looking over and I was like, what are you watching? That's so cool. But what a great example of like how that kind of technology beyond just fun can like provide like an afterlife experience.
Yeah, that just blew my mind, and I would love to see that technology exist one day.
And they got to choose 80s for their like era, so I'm so here for that.
Yeah, I'm a big 80s fan. Barely born in the 80s, but
yeah, same. Okay, so I got really creative with our ad hoc question for our guest today. So hopefully it's not too obscure, but I feel like, Jeremy, this is very niche and specific to your interests, so you'll have some opinions here. So out of all of your favorite anime, like your top 5, top 3 anime that you watch, which one would you want to sample sounds from for a remix? Like if you were to do like a music, like just like and you can pick from different animes too, but which one would you like pull from?
I'd probably pull from Macross.
Macross. Okay, I'm not familiar with this one. What's that one about?
Macross, if let's see, in America, the first season was Robotech.
Okay.
So the first season of Robotech was Macross, and the soundtrack from the original Macross anime was just phenomenal. Like I almost did a remix of one of the themes. I didn't do it, but it was just in my mind playing. So I might do that one day, just because you brought it up.
New
But
single dropping soon from Jeremy. You heard it here first.
Exclusive.
the other one I would use, I'd use Yu Yu Hakusho. That's one of my favorite anime. Probably the only one I've watched twice, and it has over 100 episodes.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I don't
And
play
then,
when it comes.
would you be sampling more of the sound or the music, or like what is it about those?
There's a lot of awesome sounds, and the soundtrack itself is really great. I've there's been days I've listened to the entire soundtrack of it just doing work.
Nice.
So
I like that.
So that'd be definitely one I'd tap into.
I saw an anime in theaters recently that I'm sure you're familiar with, Jeremy, called Your Name. It was like a body switching anime, and it really made me think, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah, that one's an interesting one.
Yeah. There's a lot of what I really enjoy about anime is it's very like stylized and can sometimes be very over the top, but at the same time can make you think and really pull at your heartstrings. And I think there's an interesting parallel there with musical theater that like very similar to anime, right? That some people are like, ugh, anime or ugh, musicals, but it's such a stylized over the top art form that on the one hand can make you laugh and cry, but like on the other hand can like really get your brain going. Like my boyfriend watches a lot of anime and I'll like Ghost in the Shell and things like that, and I'll be watching it in the background like
cyberpunk anime. That's favorite. I love those super psychological anime where you get into ethics. So you get into like the ethics of robots and the use of technology. This futuristic ethical anime where it really gets you thinking, and they touch on so many subjects, not necessarily directly, but it always mirrors back to society. Like, I didn't think of that. Just gets me thinking like, maybe I need to reevaluate some things that I thought of just or because this gave me an idea of
maybe I need to make some salmon. Maybe I need to learn to make salmon now. Well, those are all of our official questions. But Brandon, any other questions you have for Jeremy before we let him go today?
Ooh, well, let's see. So I know, Jeremy, you're really plugged in, and for anybody watching, again, I know we're telling you follow Jeremy on Twitter because
he's always doing something on
it's amazing. And, like if you didn't watch Build, you would still know everything that happened just by following Jeremy on Twitter. So if you want to be plugged in to the .NET ecosystem in particular, Jeremy's your guy. So yeah, something I'm curious about, Jeremy, what's coming down the pike that you are most excited about?
I'd say one of the things I'm really excited about is seeing Project Reunion and finally getting full ARM64 support for WinUI 3 and the release of .NET 5, because I know there's a lot of people who have like WPF applications that they want to see run on the ARM64 devices, and if as soon as all of these platforms are targets available for ARM64, then they can cross compile and make more apps available for me to use. That's what I'm really looking forward to that.
And selfishly, for somebody like myself who makes iOS and Android apps that also run on ARM64 processors, what is, again, selfishly good for me is with .NET focusing more on ARM64, there's going to be more optimizations coming. And so without having to write any code, I can just recompile the app and it'll run faster.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a lot of work, and I love reading the blog posts about all of the optimizations for ARM64. I'm just like, wow, this is phenomenal. And so yeah, you can tell it gets me really happy because I want to see things run faster, even though it runs fast enough for me. Like I love that there's a focus. It's not being left behind. It's people are making sure that the proper fixes, the proper additions to make this platform run better. It's happening. So a big shout out to everyone involved with that.
Certainly.
We have someone in the chat that just said, yes, Project Reunion blew my mind at build.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Jeremy, for anybody at home who hasn't heard Project Reunion, what's a quick 1-2 sentence soundbite or summary of what the project is?
It's not the Project Runway reunion, just so.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, so if we think of Project Reunion, it's the unification of what you would see as Win32 and UWP. That that moniker is just kind of going away. I'm like, okay, here's the Windows app. So you're going to have a different style of this, different style of that, but you're seeing that API just kind of merge across the board. It's going to be abstracted enough that this API is going to be available across all these project types. So I see it as that real kind of unification of the Windows platform for developers.
And let's be honest, finally.
Oh yeah.
It's always been this, I don't want to say a battle because it makes it sound like it's anything antagonistic. It's not. It's just we have so many amazing tools at Microsoft for working with Windows that the question always comes up. It's like, okay, well, which one should I use, and which one's better, which one's best? And it's not necessarily that one is absolutely better than all of the others. Some are better at certain things, but yeah, being able to unify all that is such a dream. And same with .NET 5 is going to be unifying more things when it comes to .NET Core, Mono. It's a beautiful, bright future for us as .NET developers.
Optimize
so if you're watching at home and you're not using .NET or C# yet, what are you waiting for?
What are you doing?
Get started today.
This was one of my thoughts. Any ideas you have, immediately write them down. It doesn't matter what type of idea it is. Write it down and research everything you can to make it happen.
Yeah. Well, Jeremy, we've got your Twitter here on underneath your name where people can follow you, but are there other spaces that people should be keeping an eye out for your awesome updates and work that you're doing out there on all the Windows and .NET things?
If there's anything, it'll likely come through Twitter first.
Twitter. All right.
Yep.
Everybody follow now. Follow Jeremy now. And Jeremy, it's been so wonderful to have you on today. I was just thinking my windows literally in real life are very gloomy today, but you have brought positive windows into my life today. So thank you.
Well, thank you too. That's what I like to do. Put a smile, put a smile on faces and get everyone happy. That's what it's all about.
And I'm sad that we didn't get to see each other in person this year at Ignite or Build, but at least we have Learn TV and Twitch.
Absolutely.
Right.
All righty. Well, that is the end of our show for today. Thank you all so much for joining us live and for all the great questions. We got some really great questions this time, and we will see y'all next week. So from me, Chloe, and I'm gonna point the right way.
Brandon.
This has been 8 Bits. Bye, y'all.